In case you have any doubts about the loyalty oaths. I mean, maybe you should have saw that in the news already as well, but yeah, there's a bunch of stories about that where all members of Congress had to swear an oath of loyalty, not to the Constitution but to Israel. And Congress people like Cynthia McKinney were basically vilified and ostracized because she didn't want to do that. So when fake Pharisee patriots talk about bravery, I just have to laugh. And no, he's not coming to save you either. Yeah, he's one of them, as you see. Maternally, just like your hero Hitler, or some of you guys is a hero. Yeah, it's all one big plan, and you're all pawns and pros and playing your roles. Wake up. Wake up. In case you're wondering where this all comes from, the whole 666 thing, it's from this Star of David thing. Yeah, 6 triangles, 6 angles, 6 sides. It's basically the hexagon. It's all tied to Saturn and hexagon / black cube worship. People knew this from a long time ago, obviously. This is nothing new. It's not NASA that found out there was a hexagon on Saturn. People have been worshipping that black cube for eons. As a side note, I did make a scientific discovery about this hexagon / black cube on Saturn, and it is basically a shadow, a cymatic caudacaustic shadow or reflection of the rings themselves. So these people have been worshipping shadows like the allegory in the cave, like slaves.
To get away, climbing on top of others, leading to some people suffocating. We saw some terrible images, Jonathan, of bodies, dozens and dozens of bodies, some piled on top of each other. We also saw some first responders trying to come to the rescue of pilgrims, trying to save lives there on the spot.
And why do regular average people do these strange things with such conviction? Yes, that was a view of Saturn spinning counterclockwise, and people are fully possessed by its power, even though it's just an illusion, it's just a shadow. They're fully possessed by what you call hysteria and groupthink. But anyway, let's get back to the topic. 666.
Most Christians believe that the Judaism of the Old Testament is very similar to Judaism today. Yet the Jewish Encyclopedia, in its article on Judaism, says modern Judaism and the Judaism of the Old Testament are very different. It says that after Nebuchadnezzar conquered Judah in the 6th century BC and led the Jews to distant Babylon, the Jews were faced with challenges to their faith they had never before experienced. Ever since the time of Solomon, the religion of Israel had centered around the magnificent temple in Jerusalem with its sacrifices and rituals. The question now became, how could one be a true Jew in a very foreign, even hostile environment? the need arose for a certain class of lay priests called scribes or sopherim to interpret the law in this new setting and make it workable. In time, these scribes became what the New Testament calls the scribes and Pharisees, the greatest legal authorities of Israel for all ages. The Pharisees said there were really two inspired revelations to the Jews. There was the written law of Moses received atop Sinai, but there was also the oral tradition acquired by 70 elders who came to the base of the mountain but were forbidden to proceed farther. The Pharisees said that these 70 elders, or Sanhedrin, received a much more extensive and profound revelation than Moses, a revelation which was never written down, yet took precedent over the written law. When Jesus came on the scene, his reaction was to bitterly denounce this counterfeit tradition. Christ said the Pharisees, by their tradition, had made the law of God of none effect. He considered the Pharisees the most dangerous leadership Israel ever had. The Talmud confirms Christ's words. In the Talmud, in Treatise Sanhedrin, an extensive passage describes the right of the Pharisee to kill anyone, just as long as he did so indirectly. As one of dozens of examples, the Talmud tells us that if one bound his neighbor and he died of starvation, he is not liable to execution. In such an indirect manner, the Pharisees also killed Christ. Manipulating the Romans to actually wield the spear and sword, the Pharisees claimed, as their descendants do today, that since the Romans were the direct cause of the death of Christ, it is the Romans, not the Jews, who are guilty. Christ also called the Pharisees adulterers, an adulterous generation. The Talmud provides generous loopholes for adultery. It says the penalty for adultery does not include sex with a minor, the wife of a minor, or the wife of a heathen. The Talmud also encourages seduction of unwed adolescent girls called designated bondmaids. But it's important how such rapes are performed. With the designated bondmaid, one is guilty only in the case of natural connection, but not in the case of perverse connection. The Pharisees reasoned that rape in a perverted manner is outside the jurisdiction of the law. Normal rape, however, was punishable. In Babylon, sexual perversion of every kind had been a way of life for millenniums. The Pharisees were deeply influenced by such practices. In one of dozens of endorsements of child sex, Simeon ben Yohai said, "A proselyte under the age of 3 years and a day is permitted to marry a priest." Agreeing with ben Yohai, the great Rabbah said, "When a grown-up man has intercourse with a little girl, it is nothing, for when the girl is less than this, 3 years and a day, it is as if one put the finger into the eye." The footnote to this passage says, "As tears come to the eye again and again, so does virginity come back to the little girl under 3 years." The same section confirms that sexual activity with small boys is in the same category. The intercourse of a small boy is not regarded as a sexual act.
The next guest was used also in worshiping the devil, participated in human sacrifice rituals and cannibalism. She says her family has been involved in rituals for generations. She is currently in extensive therapy, suffers from multiple personality disorder, meaning she's blocked out many of the terrifying and painful memories of her childhood. Meet Rachel, who is also in disguise to protect her identity. You come from generations of ritualistic abuse?
Yes, my family has an extensive family tree, and they keep track of who's been involved and who hasn't been involved. And it's gone back to, like, 1700.
And so you were...
Right. I was born into a family that believes in this.
And does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl?
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family.
Really? And so who knows about it? Lots of people now.
I talked to a police detective in the Chicago area, and several of my friends know, and I've spoke publicly before.
So what kinds of things? You don't have to give us the gory details, but what kinds of things went on in the family?
Well, there would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to,
Whose babies?
There were people who bred babies in our family, no one would know about it. A lot of people were overweight, so you couldn't tell if they were pregnant or not, or they would supposedly go away for a while and then come back. The other thing I want to point out, not all Jewish people sacrifice babies. I mean, no, that's not a very typical thing. I just want to point that out.
This is the first time I heard of any Jewish people sacrificing babies. But anyway, so you witnessed the sacrifice.
Right. When I was very young, I was forced to participate in that, in which I had to sacrifice an infant.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
Uh-huh. Power. And so, were you ever used? Were you ever used yourself?
I was molested. I was raped several times.
Mm-hmm. And what's your mother doing?
She's
in all of this. What's her role in all of this?
I'm not exactly what her role is. I haven't, recovered all of my memories, but her family was extremely involved.
Mm-hmm.
She brought me to it. Both of my parents brought me to it.
And where is she now?
She lives in the Chicago metropolitan area. She's on the Human Relations Commission of the town that she lives in, and she's an upstanding citizen. Nobody would suspect her. There's a book that I had just come across called Lilith's Cave, which is a book of Jewish mysticism and supernatural, and there's a lot in that book that relates to what I endured when I was a child.
Side note, there is definitely a link between Satanism and Zionism. You'll find out with the founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey.
LaVey.
Don't be afraid. This is not a recruitment film for Satanism. You're either a real Satanist, a true Satanist, or not. And if you are, you were born that way.
In nomine Satanae Lucifer Excelsis, in the name of our great God, Satan Lucifer, I command thee to come forth and bestow these blessings upon us. Bow down, I am the Emperor of Dreams. I crown thee with the million-colored sun of secret worlds incredible, and take their trailing skies for vestment. When I soar, throned on the mounting zenith, and illume the spaceward flown horizons infinite. Like rampant monsters roaring for their glut, the fiery crested oceans rise and rise, by jealous moons maleficently urged to follow me forever.
I would like to take another moment for a prayer. The golden gates of hell stay open night and day. Smooth is the descent and easy the way. Wicked hearts fill minds with twisted words tongues say. By their actions they are judged. Still the complicit do not budge. While demons all around are fighting for control, the devil may take my life, but it will never take my soul. Amen.
All right, dear. Look, no. Go on. Take a look. See how beautiful you are? See? What's up? It's us, man! Man, open the door. Open the door, man. There. Open the door, man. There.